The newest Planet of the Apes movie, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, is here, but it takes place 300 years after the last trilogy with a brand new set of characters, so here's my spoiler-free thoughts on the best and worst parts of the movie. The first thing that I absolutely loved about this movie is it very smartly does not try to replace Caesar, but instead what this movie does is still have Caesar and his legacy play a huge part in the movie, which is really crucial because a lot of apes took his words in the wrong way and twisted it and ended up using them for violence. Then we have some apes that just don't know who Caesar was in general or anything that happened back when humans were running the world. And then there's a third group of apes that are like the truthers of Caesar and really respect what he really meant with the words and are not trying to twist it for their own personal gain. Which leads me right into the second point, is that I absolutely love the supporting cast of characters because we have like one main ape whose name is Noah. And while yes, he's not as good or interesting of a protagonist as Caesar was, yet he doesn't need to be. He's a lot more cautious and passive, and he's not like a natural born leader or anything, but he's still carving out his own interesting legacy, and plus he's really boosted up by the amazing supporting characters in this movie. Like Raka is the orangutan in this movie, and he's genuinely one of my favorite new supporting characters in this entire series so far. He's one of the apes that really respects what Caesar actually stood for and wanted, which was just peace between apes. And I just love the perspective he brings into this universe. He also has some super comical lines, and he's not afraid to get his hands dirty when needed as well. In addition to Noah and Raka, we also have Freya Allen playing the character May that kind of rounds out this big three of our main cast. And the movie actually takes a decently long amount of time to introduce her character into the film, but when she is in it, she is actually pretty awesome. Her character has a really interesting perspective on this world, and I really love the dynamic she has with the other apes because the other apes are really viewing her and treating her like humans used to treat apes. And her being a human, obviously, she wants to find more people of her kind. She wants the world to go back like the way it used to be in the old story. She doesn't want to be like the only human running around. But these guys end up teaming up, but there's also that tension underlying between them just because of the differences in what they are and what they want, and it's just super intriguing the entire time. While I'm talking about characters, Proximus as the villain of this movie is just so incredible, one of the best parts of it easily. He's the ape that has completely twisted everything that Caesar wanted, but he's using Caesar's name and legacy to control these other apes pretty much. He's another character that we actually take a long time to get introduced to, but it just makes that first reveal of him and his introduction just so much cooler, because you're just constantly hearing about take him to Proximus, oh Proximus's orders, and you don't know who he really is yet, and when he is finally revealed in the film, it's just such a dope scene. And Kevin Durant is the actor who plays and voices the character, and he just does an incredible job. I need to talk about the action in this film because I'm someone that personally gets very bored of action scenes very quickly because I feel like they can just be very repetitive or use a lot of cheap camera tricks to just try to make it look more exciting than it is. But I was having an absolute blast with all the action in this film. It is so fun. There's a lot of unique different fighting styles and chase scenes. There are some straight up hilarious, almost Looney Tune-esque like knockouts in this movie too, of people just hitting each other with clubs and stuff. It is actually super entertaining. What was most surprising to me about the entire action part of this movie is how high of a kill count this movie has. Like, characters are getting killed off left and right in this, which is just super refreshing to see because I feel like a lot of big blockbusters nowadays have the thing where like, oh, somebody dies and it ends up being either a fake death or we just keep everybody alive because we're like, oh, if someone likes this character, we can't kill them off. But nope, no good guys, no bad guys, none of them are safe in this movie, and it makes the action just that much more exciting when you feel like at the end of any given action sequence, someone actually can die and the consequences are there. Another thing I really loved about this movie is that it takes place so far in the future that the world is so different and it feels more like a fantasy genre film than anything else. The past ones were definitely more like post-apocalypse, post-war films, but this one really focuses on the adventure aspect. Like, it reminded me of Lord of the Rings in a lot of places earlier on in the film, just kind of when Frodo and Sam are first leaving the Shire. Not saying the movie's as good as that, but it has that same kind of sense of just building out this world and exploring it with the other characters, learning more about it, the different cultures in it. It definitely takes its time and slows down in a lot of places, spends a lot of time with Noah early on, really getting to learn about him, what his views are, his family. I feel like that's why a lot of people are saying, oh, pacing's an issue. This movie's like 2.5 hours and it felt way too slow, which I can totally see why people are saying that, but while there are definitely slower moments, none of it was ever boring to me. I was super captivated by everything going on in this. As I was mentioning earlier with the characters, this slower pace really worked for me because it really helps you just learn what each character is about one by one, and then when they're all teaming up or fighting against each other, it really helps you feel a lot more connected to what's happening. I gotta talk about the visuals of this film because if you're someone that just wants to go see something that looks absolutely gorgeous, this is definitely the film for you. I don't want to keep comparing this movie to The Lord of the Rings, but it just had a lot of shots that really did remind me of it. Like, there's a lot of these huge, just gorgeous landscape shots. They're just these super wide shots that let you just see like the entire coast and them just riding their horses on it, or an entire entire jungle, and it's just so gorgeous. That was just the scenery alone. Do not even get me started on how absolutely amazing the apes look. Like, they have truly mastered this kind of motion capture CGI art that they're doing. I am not kidding when I say you could probably put these CGI apes in a nature documentary, and like half the people watching it wouldn't even realize that they're not real animals. It just looks so unbelievably realistic. As I mentioned, the action sequences earlier too, there's lots of just moving parts, apes swinging around, throwing swords, fighting each other. None of it looks fake at all. It looks so realistic. One of the things that goes in kind of the mixed or mid category for me is the ending of this film. Now, I'm not going to go into any spoilers. I'll just say, like, the ultimate climax of the film is very good and it pays off perfectly, but the film kind of overstays its welcome a little bit for the last like 10 to 15 minutes, kind of setting up, oh hey, maybe there can be a franchise here or more films. And it's in the mixed category for a reason. Like, it's not absolutely terrible. I feel like it does kind of make sense with where the story was going for how the movie ends. This is the first Disney-owned Planet of the Apes movie, and I feel like that's definitely why this movie ends a lot more setting up sequels than the other ones did. Like, obviously they had a plan for a trilogy for the other one, but each one felt a little bit more conclusive. But overall, I think this is a fantastic fresh start for this iconic franchise, because this movie is ultimately a perfect balance between honoring the past but also setting up a fresh new start with a bunch of new characters that are all super likable. It gets a 9 out of 10 for me. I had a blast. Let me know what you'd rate it in the comments below if you've seen it.